Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday to you. Welcome to another episode of Tea with Ann Marie, where I am spilling the tea on a business, politics, and community happenings. As you can see, I am wearing my shirt because it is, 18 days away from elections? So, got to do my shameless plug today. Ann Marie Sorrell for Palm Beach Soil and Water Conservation District, seat 2. Make sure you cast your vote, and hopefully I can count on your support. I have a very, 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 very special guest. All my guests are very special, but this is one of my great friends who I love dearly. And he is such a leader in the community. Mr. Rolando Chang Barrero. Hopefully I said that right. I'm trying to practice on my work on my Spanish, right? So Rolando, how are you?
How are you, Ann Marie?
I'm so good. Even better with you being here.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind.
Thank
congratulations on your campaign. I heard it's doing really well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been quite the fun journey so far. I tell folks, I think I'm like the worst candidate. I do so well working with candidates and making sure that they stay on top of what they're supposed to do for their campaigns. And I just, timing has just been crazy and hectic, but it's all good. We're making it do what it do. We're, getting the word out the best we can with the time that I have available to do so. But it's all good.
I'm going to tell you something. I am the best at product placement and self-promotion. Like, this is for the Bonfiglio, so I'm branding Jim Bonfiglio. So
nice.
You need to send me a yard sign so that I can put you along with Karina Baldassare.
I would drop one off to you today or tomorrow.
I have to get my shameless plugs out.
I love it. I love it. Why not, right?
and you know that we have a common friend. There you go.
Yay, Pam Keith, yes.
I have been a walking promo machine, and I can't wait to the whole election thing is over and that you're hired so that I could help you in any capacity, because I am also a major environmentalist, and I've offered my help to our other candidate that's running, also Rob Long. And
yes.
Once that happens, then I could put this hat back on and commit to being an artist all over again.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, because for those who don't know you, Rolando, you wear a lot of hats, right? You wear a lot of hats. And so the cool thing about Tea with Ann Marie, and what are you drinking today? You have your tea?
I'm drinking coffee, honey. I went across the street and they looked at me like, tea? I was like, ouch. Never ask for tea in a gas station, okay? Everybody that overhears you gives you a dirty look.
Well, I have my tea, a hot tea.
Another shameless plug. I'll be over to Audrey's Serenity Garden Tea House maybe later on, and maybe you'll join me, and then we could have some high tea.
Oh, listen, I haven't had high tea in so long. I think the last time I had high tea was before the pandemic, and it was at the Flagler Museum.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Now they have some good tea, and the refreshments that come with it. Oh,
yeah,
so good. But no one beats the Chesterfield.
I beg to differ.
Really?
Serenity Garden Tea House, right across the street from Table 20.
Yes.
It's a little place. It is a purveyor of all kinds of imported teas.
Yeah.
And it's a little cafe, so they have some foods which are really delicious, and they have it's kind of a girly place,
But isn't tea kind of girly? But tea is pretty girly, right?
I feel really comfortable there. I even wear one of the big derby hats, the bonnets. We have a great time when we go there. Super friendly.
Well, I have to check it out. So initially, I think we had booked Tea with Ann Marie there. So when I first started Tea with Ann Marie, the whole premise was that I would show up at a tea house or coffee house that served tea, and I would have guests, and I would be doing it in different parts of the region. So we first started out at Circle House Coffee, then we did Subculture, and then the pandemic hit.
Well, we need to broker a deal with Audrey. Maybe she'll give us free tea and free sandwiches if we tell her.
Yeah, well, that was the whole point, was that we would promote, in the process of me talking about these different issues and initiatives, that I would also promote a local, like I didn't want to do Starbucks, no offense against Starbucks, but I wanted to promote local, locally owned
You don't want to get
businesses.
the Black Lives Matter pins that were removed at Starbucks and then they backpedaled, and that's a little too heavy for this conversation.
No, it's not heavy at all. I mean, that's the purpose of this conversation, is that we're raw, uncut, and to the point. And I will put the disclaimer out there. All of the conversations that we have here are our personal views. It's not reflective of any businesses or any companies that we work with or represent. These are our personal views. This is our personal take on the different issues that are happening. So I'll put that out there as a disclaimer.
I'm always dropping it. I always drop names of all my favorite people. The DNC chairman, Tom Perez. He came with Nikki Fried and Lori Berman. Senator Lori Berman was here at the gallery yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, no. I was almost starstruck. I have been wanting to meet, mostly because of Nikki Fried. She's gorgeous, and I wanted to meet her for the longest time. But I was remiss if I didn't, drop Rodney Mayo's name for the feeding the community. And talk about a lot of people that helped me out, because I was when the beginning of the quarantine, I was home and I was ready to go to surgery. Wow. So I couldn't take any risks, and I really couldn't go out food shopping or anything like that. And Rodney would send me packages. You know Aaron Warmus?
Yes.
Yes. Aaron would show up with these boxes. He goes like this. This is from Rodney. And I was like, how does Rodney? I told him. So I got the opportunity to go over to Subculture and talk to him. But I did bring it up to the party that we as a community here stick together quite a bit. We do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Rolando, let's talk about, give us a little bit of your background. Who is Rolando Chang Barrero?
I am an obnoxious little kid that grew up. I was born in Florida. I grew up in New Jersey, went to Catholic school until I got invited to not come back. Then I started going to public school. I was a handful. So soon after I was invited not to return to school, I was invited to find my own place to live from home.
Wait, so you got kicked out of Catholic school?
I got kicked out of my house.
And then you went to public school and you got kicked out?
No. I got arrested from public school.
Okay.
And then my father invited me to move out.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I had a wonderful life. Always creative, always building something, designing something, graphic artist, window display, fashion design. I worked for a t-shirt manufacturer, and then ended up all the way in Beverly Hills, worked my way up to Beverly Hills. And then at some point, I realized that I only had a high school degree, a high school diploma. Yeah. And so then I was like, ooh, I'm running around with all these like wealthy, educated people. Maybe I should polish up a little bit. So I went back to college and I proceeded to study art at the Art Institute of Chicago. And I graduated and I got the Ryerson Traveling Fellowship. I did really good. And those were kind of hard times back in the 80s because it was the whole AIDS pandemic. And so back then we were wearing like 3 hats also.
Wow.
student, visual artist, and activist, street activist, with ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. And, I went through a real depressing state because of a lot of losses. And I was in my 20s, and kind of living alone and stuff like that. So I didn't know how to process death and bereavement issues and stuff like that. So I kind of drank my way through it, drank and drugged my way through it. And then at 32, I was diagnosed as terminal from brain cancer.
Wow.
And that was it. Then I completely tuned out. But it wasn't before I called my neurosurgeon, Doogie Hauser. I told him, he told me that, he goes, you have an anaplastic estrocytoma with a mixed oligodendroglioma. And I go like this, what does that mean? You gotta get this straight. I don't know how to spell biology, okay?
Right.
And he goes like this, you have terminal brain cancer. And I looked at him and I was like, perfect. All my friends die of AIDS and I catch a straight disease. And he goes, what are you, stupid? That's not a straight disease. And I was like, well, none of us live long enough to catch anything that straight people catch. And he goes, you don't catch it, you develop it. And I was like, whatever, Doogie. It's like a 28-year-old genius, one of these prodigy neurosurgeons and I really learned to respect him and appreciate him a lot. He was like 4 years younger than me, and he really did look 17. The idea that he would be going into my head kind of flipped me out. But I was in Lincoln Road during the beginning of the Lincoln Road Art Center, which is in Miami, South Beach. I have been living in South Beach since the 80s, since the early 80s. I moved to Chicago, was there at the beginning of the Pilsen Art District. So when I moved back up here 10 years ago, I actually relocated here like a lot of people do because of recovery and all the things about all these junkies and drug addicts. And I was like, oh, well, whatever. I can live past that. I've been called so many things in my life,
Yeah.
But I had, how I said, I had a felony sentence. I had lost my rights to vote. Even though I had paid all my fines and fees, I was still not able to vote. I was not able to get a job. So I went back to doing what I know how to do best, is painting and exhibiting other people's work. And so I opened up a small warehouse space. And I saved my shekels, how the saying goes. And eventually opened up a small little boutique gallery in Lake Worth. And I kept my ties with the Boynton Beach Art District. I started a nonprofit that runs it called the Florida Arts Association.
Wow.
And we developed the Boynton Beach Neighborhood Arts District into the Boynton Beach Art District. And, rebranded it, gave it legs, and now it's basically a wonderful space and a tourist attraction recognized by the Cultural Council. And so doing good, And then when I was losing my lease in Lake Worth, I started looking for a place, and I discovered the box gallery, big empty box, and I was like, it's perfect. So we got busy scraping floors and tearing down walls and drop ceilings, gutted it all, and it's like a big empty box.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. First of all, you have such a story of resilience. You have a story of perseverance through so many different, first of all, time periods, right? Not saying you're like ancient or anything. I went
through that crisis when I turned 50. I was like, I just turned 58 3 days ago.
Happy belated
When I
birthday.
turned 50, I was like, oh my, I've been around for half a century. That's like that's like a whole section of the history book.
Yeah, right.
That was kind of like a really like a crisis moment there when I realized that.
Yeah, but you lived through a lot. Like I mean, you're talking about a period of time where when we had a pandemic and it was the AIDS pandemic, right?
Yeah.
You lived through that, and then which I want to kind of touch on a little bit because I feel like kind of like some people are doing now with coronavirus, that some people still think that it's a non-issue, right? We forget about World AIDS Day every year. It's not
Right.
as celebrated as much.
Coming up December 1st.
Right.
And it's going to look a little different this year because of the quarantining and the lack of ability for people to congregate.
Yeah.
Because it is a day of mourning, and
Yeah.
traditionally we meet at Compass with the quilt, and
Yes.
everybody holds hands, and it's a somber event.
Yeah.
And they have plans, and we're excited. I'm not going to tell everybody what it is.
Okay.
But also here in the gallery, I'm working with visual aids from New York to do a couple of events and show a couple of films that are pertinent. Last year, I showed the Black and Hispanic community was never acknowledged by mainstream white gay historians. Kind of got lost in the shuffle. So they made a movie, a couple of Black HIV positive survivors, about a park in their neighborhood where they would hide to congregate and commune and have sex. So they would hide behind this wall in the park. And because you know that it's really taboo in most Black and Hispanic neighborhoods. So it was real hush hush. And that group of guys, as they went dying, on the same wall, they would write memorials. Their love life revolved around in that park behind that wall.
Wow.
So it's basically like a giant tombstone now, memorial. But it's made with spray cans, murals, and stuff like that. And those are the bits of pieces of history that I'd like to show off and to amplify.
Yeah.
Because we just tend to think of it through the eyes of basically the white gay male.
Right.
And we are very intersectional. And that intersectionality doesn't really have a voice too much, too often. It comes up every once in a while. It sneaks in. But like yourself, you're a woman. You're a politician. You're Black. There's a number of different aspects to your life.
Right.
So we just can't say Ann Marie Sorrell is a Black woman.
Yeah.
Ann Marie Sorrell is a Black woman, but she's also a politician. She's also a civic leader. There's more aspects to it. And within the gay community, you have the Latino gay experience, which is different than the white gay experience.
Correct.
And what I've tried to explain in layman's terms, just because you practice a certain type of sex, or you're born gay or with a certain designation in gender, does not mean that you don't bring all the ills of your culture. If you're racist, if you were raised in a racist home, you're still a racist. But how can gay people be racist? And I was like, the same way that anybody could be racist. You're born that way. How can you be a misogynist? The same way that anybody else is a misogynist. And you know, we have the unity in the community tag. And I was talking to someone and I was like, is it a tagline of what we represent or what we hope to represent? And they go,
Wow.
wow, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know, right now, and all these conversations have come up because of the Black Lives Matter protests that happened after George Floyd. But they had been there from 2016 during the original Black Lives Matter movement that started. And all these conversations tend to come up every time there's a crisis, and then they die down.
And then they die down.
And,
one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, and my whole concern is that we keep those conversations going.
Right.
So we don't have to, you know, and hopefully if we keep the conversations going in 4 years, in the next 4 years, we won't have to revisit it because of another critical situation like and George Floyd too.
Yeah.
We don't need a remake. You know, we don't need a part two to what we experienced this year.
Well, I think we've had similar part twos even immediately after George Floyd, right?
Yeah. It's still not a thing. It's still remnants of what's going on.
Exactly. So I think, you know, I want to go back a little bit. Like I said, I think you've been an activist for a while. And activism comes from our experiences and the things that impact us personally a lot of times. Yeah. Not everyone, but a lot of times that's where it derives from, right? And so I want to talk about your art first. So let's put your art hat on, because it wasn't the first place that I met you.
Oh, the way the glasses have to come off because. If I keep my glasses off, I can't see you. I'm old. I can't see anything. Look at the size of these glasses. Jeez.
Oh my gosh! So
I don't remember having 20/20 vision. But
I don't think I ever had. I think the last time I had 20/20 vision, I must have been like 10. But but you know, your personal artwork tells the stories of the activism work that you do, and then the exhibits that you have had that I've been able to either witness or at least see from a distance through social media. Also tells the stories of what's happening in reality in an abstract way. I hope I'm saying it right. So what inspires you with your art, and then how you choose the exhibits that you invite into the gallery?
Well, my personal art is just an extension of who I am. It's and I think it's true for every artist. We paint or we make films or we do performances that are documenting our place in a specific time and how life is affecting us. I know a lot of people that do pretty flowers and stuff like that. And that's where their headspace is. That they're documenting their cathartic release or their catharsis of escapism, or however they're processing their life at that time. But that is definitely autobiographical of their place in time. Other people are making very much saleable work, and maybe that's their concentration at that place in time. My work tends to always be dealing with issues that I find of social unrest, because I'm in the throes of it all the time. I still read a lot about social justice, court cases. So it's important to me. 2016 had me dealing with issues that I didn't have a grasp on, but I knew that were important to be spoken about. So I started organizing exhibition of artists that were dealing with those issues, so that I would allow the people's voices that are the ones that are moving me to be showcased. Like the recent in time of protest, with the Black Lives Matter protest around town here. It was moving. I felt compelled to do something.
Yeah.
I didn't want to usurp the voice of the youngsters that were doing that, because I was in awe of how polished they were. And I get the ally role, even
Yes.
though I have Afro-Cuban in me and Chinese, and I'm a minority and all this stuff. It was not my turn to speak. It was that moment where the Black community has to talk about what it's like to be a Black mother and send your Black son out to the world. What it's like to say goodbye to your Black husband when he goes to work and wonder if he's coming back. Wondering how it feels when your brother gets killed, sentenced and killed on the street. What does that feel like? And those are firsthand conversations that are there. So what I did was, as an ally, I have access to another audience. So I offered that audience, and they accepted it, and they came and they hung the documentation of it, the videos, the photographs, and over the course of the month, we had the opportunity to invite people that would otherwise not discuss these things publicly or on Facebook or be engaged at all. But when they come to the gallery, they go like this, wow, what's the story behind this?
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, well, why don't you look at the video? And they pop on the video, or listen to the preacher. And I had a preacher's sermon there. And the exhibition was telling about who understands, who doesn't understand. And in January, February is Black History Month. And the Miramar Cultural Center asked me to take that specific exhibition and showcase it over there. And I was like, only if we could open it up in January and keep it through March.
Yeah.
And they go, why? And I was like, well, I have a thing about parentheses. They were like, what do you mean parentheses? I was like, I don't do cancer things in October. And I like showcasing Black voices in February.
Yeah.
Because that parentheses is kind of like saying you're limited to getting people's attention during this period only.
Right.
Like you notice that I haven't done anything for Hispanic heritage or for cancer, because it's not the time. Everybody else is doing it right now. Yeah. I would prefer to do it next month, and the month after that, and the month after that, to keep the conversation going.
Yes.
And you know, it took them a while to understand where I was coming from with that, and she agreed. So we're going to open up the exhibition in early January.
Nice.
We're going to keep it up until mid-March.
Nice. Wow, I love it. I think that's art is so powerful. I have a piece from one of my neighbors that I purchased, that she did with a young boy, a young child with a mask over his face. It was a picture that went viral, with the young boy holding his fist up and in front of a line of policemen. And it's just such a powerful statement that here you have a probably 6, maybe 7-year-old kid.
Yeah. Well, there's a picture right here, but let me move this. And this was a photograph taken by Zach Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could see clearly there. Let me.
A little bit.
And it's the baby toddler.
Yeah. Yes.
Toddler. And
Wow.
she got famous because she was at all the protests with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she became like the poster child of the ally.
Yeah.
And the
It
change.
just gave me chills.
Her mom was interested and concerned that as a white ally, that she exposed her child that early to the actual events and the conversation, so she could have that.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the best that she could do. And I'm trying to work on a piece documenting conversations that mothers have with their children, explaining the current state of affairs. And
that's powerful.
That I'm doing. So, it's a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And an experience is it's an indelible mark in one's life.
Absolutely.
So art is so broad in what you could do with it.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next for Box Gallery? I know the elections are coming up. After the elections, I know it's kind of like ground zero for all things elections and campaigns right now. But after the election, like, what can we see? What can we look forward to from Box Gallery?
Okay, I am really concerned with trans lives, and so I am going to present a trans exhibition. But it's not going to be like, oh my God, trans people portraits and all this stuff. I've done that before. Mm-hmm. These are graphic cartoons, illustrated graphic novels by someone who's been producing comic books, basically.
Okay.
And he's the first person that ever introduces a trans-centric comic book. And then we have Radiant, which is going to be a big fundraiser for cancer, and the Sari Center. Are you familiar with the Sari Center?
No, I'm not.
We have been involved with teacups and top hats for years, and they're one of the sponsors. So we're getting together. We already handed out over 12 radiation masks, the plastic web face masks that they mold onto you to isolate you in the radiation when you're getting radiation, so your head doesn't move. So those are molds that are made in hospitals. Okay. And we have 10 of them. We're going to be, we have 12. We already issued 10. We're going to get 10 more. We're going to have 20 masks custom made by socialites, artists, and then auction them off. And that's for December, January. And then I get to bring in a young man who's been producing some of the most powerful work that deals with isolation, addiction, mental health, and we're looking forward. I'm looking forward to showcasing his work. I just posted an image of his work on my Facebook, and it's got a lot of reception. He was here in last year because he was spearheading the the heroin overdose because of the crisis that was through the pharmaceuticals. So
Mm-hmm.
he actually created a big giant heroin spoon,
Oh,
and he used it to block the FDA's entrance, so people couldn't get into work. So when you do things like that, you cost people money. It is a huge. I mean, it's a huge heroin spoon that's bent. It's beautiful. It's a
wow.
sculpture, and the whole idea behind it is that once you stop something and you bring attention to it, and so Dominic now has been working on, because he's not an addict, but he has experience with a family member that was.
Yeah.
And his family member's addiction started because of pharmaceuticals, um, and pushing pharmaceutical addictive drugs, like OxyContin, the whole pandemic with OxyContin that the pharmaceutical companies were pushing. And now he was working during the pandemic and everything about the mental health crisis, that is the silent killer, the real silent killer.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's living in fear. Everybody's locked up. So he's created these beautiful, beautiful works of art, bronzes, paintings, maquettes. So we'll be bringing those in,
Nice.
and you know, we have a lot of things in store for 2021. I think 2021 is going to be our banner year for all of us.
Wow. Well, I can't wait. That sounds really exciting. I'm sure you'll be posting it, tagging me. I'll share it, all the good stuff. And of course, definitely invite you back to talk about those things. So let's get to
Let's get to the nitty-gritty.
one of our favorite topics, right? Politics. So did you watch the town halls last night?
I watched the town hall. Biden. I just figured I turned on to Fox or the comedy stations to listen to what Trump said, for amusement. I have no interest in what comes out of that man's mouth at all. And I don't want to give him legs.
Yeah.
I don't want to really talk about it. I prefer to talk about the Biden,
Mm-hmm.
and, and the efforts and the empathy that he has towards people.
Absolutely.
And I hope, for God's sakes, that we get two centrists in office, even though everybody's like calling the Democrats the Socialist Party. They're pretty much centrist, and we need that kind of those kind of people in office that know how to work with both sides of the aisle. They know how to compromise, like we used to do.
Well, I think that's a good point. We're what I say is that, whew, I was thinking back to the 2008 period of time where we had the recession, and it was like whoever becomes the next president during that time had a lot on their hands to fix.
Oh yeah.
Here we are in a pandemic, whether people believe it or not, an economic recession, that we haven't even really seen the effects of just yet. Right. Real estate may be booming in certain parts like here because of people relocating from the north or whatever, but that's only a certain segment of real estate, and that's only going to last for so long. So we haven't seen, and probably won't see for months to come, the economic fallout. God forbid it doesn't, but I think just witnessing what I'm seeing around the world. Yesterday I was seeing where Germany, France, UK, all these countries are having these surges again with the coronavirus, and are having to now look at shutting down parts of their economies again. And for anyone in the U.S. to think that we won't be in that predicament is probably living in another.
It's very short-sighted.
It's short-sighted, and the fact that we reopened so much and so quickly, and we've relaxed
in such a big way.
Yeah, in a big way, we've relaxed. Reopening is one thing. That's but we've relaxed the mask wearing. We've relaxed a lot of the things that would keep us safe during the reopening. So to think that we're not going to see a surge again, and we're not going to have continued economic impacts is being very short-sighted. So it's so important that we get leadership, like you said, that can reach across the aisle, because our economy is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It is an American financial issue, period. Our health should not be, this pandemic should not be a Democrat or Republican issue. It's a people issue. It's a health issue. It's a crisis, right? So I really feel that the next president, Joe Biden, better be, has a lot on his hands. And I think the good thing about having someone like Joe Biden is that he did come on board and serve with Obama in cleaning up the economic downturn we had from the recession. So it's not new.
The effects of this is on so many levels, because all those loans that have been given out, they're all going to come due. And what I still don't have an income, and I've been paying my employees so that I have one employee, but he's still making money. He's still getting paid. I'm sure all your employees are getting paid, and we are going to be responsible for I have hard loans. I don't have forgivable loans.
Yeah, I have one forgivable, but I have a couple of hard loans too. Yeah.
So what is going to happen when everybody's loans come due? We already have the experience with the student loan debacle that everybody owes, and then the interest rates start doubling and tripling the longer you take to pay them off. And to avoid getting into a depression, into a serious depression, is going to take a lot of financial genius, basically, to figure out what we're going to do. And I think Trump and the whole idea of discrediting the press backfired. He was trying to discredit the press in order to look good and not be criticized and all this stuff. And I don't think he planned on the pandemic. He didn't have the foresight to to think that we need the press. Because when the press came out with the information, safety information, people didn't believe it, because he effectively told not our country, the world, that it was fake news. And he couldn't backtrack. So that's why I think that he didn't announce it. It's not because he didn't want to put anybody in panic, but he didn't want to say that it was real news. Because he would have looked foolish.
Absolutely.
People, it's time to start listening to the newspapers and the TV stations and the news, and we're in a real crisis here. He had successfully removed all credibility from the press. That all he did was what he's accustomed to doing, is double down. And he jeopardized not only our country, but a lot of other countries, because the anti-mask movement and the fake news movement is worldwide because of him.
Yeah, I was.
I don't think he realized the power of the bullhorn that he has, and,
Yeah,
and the tragic, because it's tragic, the tragic effect that it's had on the world. Uh,
right.
his concentrating on calling China bad and then calling everybody else bad news and fake news and all of this stuff and creating all this misinformation.
Yeah,
And I don't think he's smart enough to have crafted that. Because everybody goes, oh, well, maybe he crafted that because he wants to be an authoritarian person who wants to stay in office. He can't do that. You know, November 3rd, if he loses, November 4th, all those senators would scramble away from him to save their own behinds. Uh, he's going to be standing in the Oval Office by himself, wondering where Mitch McConnell is, because Mitch McConnell, as you know, has changes with the tide.
yeah,
And that's, he doesn't believe that is going to happen to him. And we're watching the Republicans take flight every day, because they want to keep their jobs. And the threat of the president's bullhorn on their state is scary.
yeah,
But the idea that when he lowers that megaphone and someone else takes it, he's worthless. He's not worth anything without the bullhorn.
exactly.
And he's not going to be like other presidents that get to continue to amass money through public speaking and things like that, because he has nothing to share.
Yeah.
No one's going to go pay him at Harvard to go do a lecture in Harvard.
About what?
To tell white people, that they have nice genes, good genes, dog whistling to Proud Boys. We have those kind of people already, and they don't make that much money.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you have a good point. I think the turnout is telling that we've seen in other places so far. Even here locally with the absentee ballot returns.
No, it's yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely am curious to see what Monday is going to look like when early voting locations open.
Yeah, it starts Monday.
It starts Monday, yeah.
We got to get our t-shirts, and we got to set up shop at all the designated places. I ordered a whole bunch of "Yo hablo español, necesita ayuda." I speak Spanish. You need help. To help guide the people to make sure that they go in with their black pens and how to fill out the bubbles so that nothing gets disqualified.
Nothing, yeah.
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 So we're going to do, everybody's mobilized and motivated. Sad news on the other hand. I forgot what magazine. Well, that I got published on at the MIT Technology Review this week. And,
congratulations.
And I have an appointment Saturday with the Nikkei from China to talk about, continue the conversation about robocalls and texting and misinformation, and how all that manipulation is coming down to the Hispanic community and how it's affecting them. But I'm reading statistics because I love numbers and all this stuff. Gun sales are up 37%.
Yes.
And it's non-white men, because the biggest consumer of weapons in this country has been the white male.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, minorities, are arming themselves. And succinctly, one person put it, I'm expecting a bloodbath. If it's anything like what we've seen, if he doesn't leave office, She's scared that there's going to be a bloodbath. And I don't like fear mongering.
Yeah.
And I hope that's not the case. But unfortunately, that's how the people are thinking.
I've been thinking it for about almost a year.
Of arming yourself for safety reasons?
Oh, well, I've been thinking, well, definitely for safety reasons, but I've been thinking about, so when Trump first got elected,
Mm-hmm.
my first thought was, and I remember saying this before I signed off the internet for a couple of months, doing lives. My last live on election night when or the day after, I forget what it was. But my thought was, I was not totally worried about Trump, but I was worried about the people who he empower, the people who, because of his election, now felt that they had the power and the leadership to propel them to now openly do, think, say, act any way that they want to with no repercussions.
Yeah.
And we've seen that. We saw it with Charlottesville. We saw it. We've just seen it. We've seen it with these uprising of these different militias and Proud Boys and whoever, right? So when we got into this election cycle, and especially as we've kind of gone through the whole pandemic and his followers and their thoughts on that, and just how closely they were, oh, that's fake news, oh, this is fake, it's a scam, there's no virus, and then when we got into the protests, and now the protest became, now it's a negative thing to peacefully protest, right? The narrative has been made that peaceful protest is all about violence and rioting. But then when you see the militia,
the first window during the protest was by a white militant dressed in military clothes.
Yeah,
and he was a plan. He was a plan to destroy the credibility of the Black Lives Matter movement. And then from there it grew. The violence grew, because you can only get blamed so much.
You're right.
For something before you say, hey, I'm getting blamed for this, screw it.
Right.
They're arresting us now. They're pepper spraying us. Let's fight back.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I get that. But I think when witnessing all of that, and just even before that, even before George Floyd, the things that I was reading on Twitter, the things I was reading on social media posts on Facebook, and the comments that people would make, and about, oh, you want a race war, we're going to start a race war, all these different things that was just bubbling, right? Yeah. So my thought was like, oh my God, if this guy does not get reelected, we're going to have a situation on our hands with his followers.
They're going to get more involved. They're going to continue to get involved.
Yeah.
They'll push the envelope.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, whether he gets elected or not, his followers are going to just continue to be, I don't even know the word, violent and everything else, right? So I think what you're seeing is that not only myself have had this thought, but other people are saying, you know what? Let me go and take this gun training class. Let me go and get my concealed weapons permit. Let me go and buy even women, like there's a lot of women.
Yeah. People of color, people that normally would not. I mean, I have a career track record in a number of different states as a criminal. Right. I committed a number of different felonies. Never once was it violent.
Right.
Mine was drug addicted, drug related, because of my drug addiction throughout my life. But none of it was violent. And I've had guns. I always kept them in 3 different lock boxes, ammunition here, the pin over here, and the gun over there. And I used to buy it, but hardly, it was of no consequence. It was just because, okay, I'm a dude, buy a gun.
Right.
And then years ago, I was like, there's no need for it. And now it's like, I got to start rethinking this.
Yeah.
Because I'm out here, I'm loud, I'm obnoxious, I'm really pro-Biden. I've been asking people to vote, and if they see me as a liability to white supremacy, I'll have just as much of a target as any black man driving around in Palm Beach.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a black woman that's in public life,
we saw them going fishing. Remember when they went fishing, completely armed to the hilt, with their kids carrying automatic weapons, semi-automatic weapons.
There's no care.
They march right through the West Palm Beach market, the Sunday market.
Yeah.
Armed.
Yeah, but the kids are being trained.
Yeah.
The kids are at the gun ranges. Like to me it's a I don't want to say a scary time, but it really is, So I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm like, why can't we be like UK? The only people that have guns are the military. Police don't even carry guns. That's but we're now being forced by what's happening to say, hey, you know what? I may need to protect myself and my family. It's not just one group's Second Amendments, it's all of our Second Amendment. Yeah. So let's exercise that. So I earlier this year, I definitely, partnered with a local company to do the training and the classes, to get people trained, to get them, their concealed weapon permit.
Who's actually training or has programs for safe gun use? Others against Mothers Demand Action. Because everybody thinks that Mothers Demand Action is an anti-Fourth Amendment group.
Yeah.
And they're not an anti-Fourth Amendment group. They're a pro-gun safety group.
Gun safety, right.
And they are against automatic weapons. They're against semi-automatic weapons, assault rifles and stuff like that. But they're pro safety. They're pro training, and everything. It's like they have this perception. The other side. I don't know where it's coming from. I go on Facebook and I see this vitriol. You're going to take my guns away. Like, who told you that?
Right. No one ever said you're going to take your guns away. We just want people to be responsible.
How are you interpreting that?
Yeah.
From common decency, and not. You don't need to walk around with an automatic weapon in this country. There's
right.
no reason, automatic or semi-automatic. If you're going hunting, get yourself a hunting rifle.
Right.
Nobody has a problem with that.
Exactly.
You want to form a militia, go to the National Guard, get trained, do your service to your country, come out, and then form a militia with trained soldiers.
Exactly.
But don't go shooting it, cans in the backyard and thinking you got a soldier because he's a racist and he could hit a target.
Yeah.
That's not a soldier. That's not a militia. That's a thug.
Yeah, exactly.
Do something for your state National Guard, get trained, and then you're able to have weapons, buy weapons that you know how to use, that are insured, that have trackers on them. So in case they're sold, you could find them. And for God's sakes, if you're going to be responsible enough to have a gun, why don't you be responsible enough to have some liability insurance for that gun.
Right, exactly.
In case something goes awry.
Exactly. Give me 1 second. So we have 1 minute. I think we need to make this last minute count with the message we want to get across to voters in these last, what do we have, 18 days?
Vote, vote, vote. Can I say vote for 1 minute? Check your mail. No. This is serious. Go to the SEO. Make sure that if you are already registered to vote, make sure that your vote by mail request has been received. If you mailed it in already, check your status. There's a red line that says received. That means it needs to be cured. That means there's something wrong with your ballot. If it's a blue sign that says received, that means it's in perfect shape. If you didn't ask for a mail-in ballot, early voting starts Monday. Make sure you go early. Wear a mask whenever you're in public or in any voting poll place, because we have Democrats that are responsible, Democrats that are not responsible. We have Republicans that are responsible and Republicans that are not responsible. And some will be wearing masks, some will not be wearing masks. But for your safety, please wear a mask. If there's a 1% chance that you may not get it, COVID, and be in public, safeguard yourself for that 1%. Do not take any risks. COVID has cost too many lives.
Yeah.
Lack of information and lack of voting has cost too many lives. Vote your heart out. Vote blue. Vote down ballot. Vote for Ann Marie Sorrell. Soil, water, and soil. Vote Jim Bonfiglio. Vote Pam Keith. Vote Jim Carroll. Vote Karina. Vote.
Vote Rob Long.
All the way down ballot. Vote blue. No matter who.
No, thank you, Rolando. This has been great. I know there's so much more we could have covered today, and that hour goes by so quickly. But we'll definitely be back, because you have so many great things coming up, and there's a lot of other things I want to talk to you about. I didn't get to, like Latinx. I want to talk about that with you.
We had that conversation with the Norton Museum.
I know. I want to talk to you about LGBTQ issues and things that are happening. So we have a lot to touch on at a later date, but we will be back with you on Tea with Ann Marie. So everyone, please share this video. Share. And also vote. Share.
Monday the 19th it starts. Go to the SEO. Check my status. Stay up to date on your status. Make sure your vote counts. Everybody's vote counts, and your vote counts the most.
Absolutely.
For water and soil.
Exactly. Thank you, Rolando. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'll see you next week. I have State Senator Lori Berman, as well as Representative Tina Polsky, who'll be joining us.
Go Biden.
That's right. Go Biden Harris. Absolutely. So make sure you guys tune in with me next week as we hear from those ladies in politics and what's happening within the state legislation.
And
all right.
More important, women for Biden.
Women for Biden. Exactly.
Women for Biden and women with Biden, because we want you to be a woman with Biden in office.
That's right. Thank you, Rolando. Love you so much.
God
guys.
bless you.
Everyone, have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And if you're available to volunteer, make phone calls, please let me know. Myself and many other candidates need you guys' help. So go to electanmariesorrell.com to sign up to join Team Ann Marie or to make a contribution. And Rolando has put his artist hat back on, so make sure you check out Box Gallery as well.
I got to put my t-shirt on and go paint.
Okay. All right. God bless. Have a good day, everyone.